Hey, how's everybody doing? It is Thursday, May 21st, and I would love to know if you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about the most common questions I've received in readings. And sometimes when we ask these questions, they're symptoms of something else. So I'd love to know how you are. Christine says she's good. Hey, Christine, good to see you. If you're here, let me know. And if you like something I say, press the like button. If you love something I say, press the love button. And if you're watching the replay, you can comment #replay. Hey, Beth from Connecticut. Oh, my goodness. And Christine, thanks for asking. She said, well, how are you? Thanks, Christine. I'm good. I'm actually going to take some time off coming up next week, because I think it's really important that we all balance our energy, right? And we have to take care of ourselves. And so, no, I'm not going anywhere totally different. It's a staycation, but I'm actually going to detach from social media and unplug my phone. I think we all need to do that from time to time. Hey, Catherine from Louisiana, and Karen and Latrice and Jeanette. Great to see everybody. So we are going to dive into the most common questions asked during readings and what that really means. Now, it's not going to be for everybody that asks these questions, but I see some common themes, and I think that it's important that we kind of address it so that we can empower ourselves and shift and, you know, do some good stuff, right? So we're also going to talk about, are you accepting the lesson that your guides are going to give you, or are you resisting it? We're also going to be talking about what your higher self is most likely trying to tell you. And also, it's really important to identify the root cause as well. So, hey, Gladys and Donna, I love it. Christine says, the current energy is knocking me on the butt. She said backside. I said butt. So, yes, we got to take time for ourselves. It's really important that we do that. Okay, so I think everybody can hear me. If you can't, you might want to adjust your sound settings. It's working on my end. Hope it's working on your end. Okay. So one of the most common questions I get is, how about my health? What's going on with my health? And I won't spend a whole lot of time on this one, but I think it's important to talk about, because while it is important when we ask questions like, what's going on with my health, know that it's always important to see a doctor. Like, that's the most important thing to do. But sometimes spirit gives you information about your health. And normally what I'm seeing is, if someone's asking this question, usually they're having a concern, which I totally understand why they're asking. But sometimes spirit gives information about someone's health, and they're letting them know ahead of time to be proactive. And the only reason that your spirit guides are going to tell you a message about your health, whether you're getting it from your intuition or you're getting it inside of a reading, is because they're going to tell you to do something to be proactive. The most common lessons that I'm getting from spirit are that health often revolves around the diet. So they talk about the diet being very essential and very important. What are you putting inside of your body? It's the fuel that runs your body. And also they're talking about how important it is to maintain your energy. I know that it sounds kind of weird, but not to you, because you're here on my Facebook page. But I'm seeing such a high correlation of, what are we doing for our energy, and are we taking care of ourselves? Or are we burning ourselves down to a little tiny candle wick? And then we think, well, why is something wrong with my health? So normally the lesson from spirit is, be proactive. I get a lot of messages around health about being outside more. I know that that sounds like, well, why does that have to do with my health? But when we think about health, we have physical, we have mental, we have emotional, we have spiritual. And there's something very healing about being outdoors and being outside. And that doesn't mean that you want to go congregate with a bunch of people right now, but it does mean that it can be very important to feel the wind in your hair and to get the sunshine that's going on. And so allowing ourselves that freedom to experience nature is really important. So normally asking about health is a symptom that you haven't been taking care of your health. And so it's like you're asking because you want to do something about it, right? But normally it's a symptom that you haven't been taking care of it. Now, there are things that come up There are things that I don't want to get into this because we could go way deep into it, but I'll say, I understand there's things that can come up while you're asking. But normally, if you're asking, there's a symptom of a misalignment going on in some way. And so this can be some way, shape, or form. And knowing that you are the creator of your reality, and normally everything, I don't want to say normally, I'm going to just say everything starts with a thought, and the thought in your mind. And so knowing that, let's say that you know that to get better, you have to exercise, or you need to eat differently, or you need to change your habit. Normally, we want to know these things, but there's something within us that's not doing it. Like we're just not doing it. And so knowing that there can be a misalignment, that you're really not taking care of it. And so it's time for you to do it. And your guides are giving you messages so that you can align and shift into doing. Now, the second common question that I'll say is, when am I going to find my soulmate? And so this is a big one, but when I see a client, or maybe you're asking your guides, when I see a client saying, well, when is that going to happen? What time is it going to happen? What day is it going to happen? What does the person look like? What job do they have? When I see that, that's usually a symptom that you have not done your own inner work to attract your soulmate. So let me talk about relationships really quickly. There's relationships that are just relationships that can serve a purpose, but they're not necessarily destined, or they're in our contract or anything like that. And usually I call these relationships of convenience. People that you get along with, people that maybe you're just staying with because of comfort, because you don't want to exert any energy to make a change, for instance, or maybe somebody's filling a void. Those relationships are not soulmate relationships. Those relationships are you not doing the inner work to feel and know that you are complete by yourself. And this talk today might trigger some people, but that's okay. I'm just telling you how it is. When you're trying to hold on to the details of your soulmate or your relationship, when you're trying to hold on, that means that there's a misalignment, and that you're not really loving yourself and knowing that it's okay and you accept things the way that they are. Now, what's interesting is the opposite. If you're saying that you want a relationship, but you're not being open, that's a whole different story as well. But normally, if you're like, where's my relationship? Where is it? Where is it? Like, I've done all my work. Where is it? I hate to say it, but I'll just give it to you. And I would say this in a reading if I were to do it. Your spirit guides would come through, most likely, and say that you haven't fully just accepted yourself. Accept and worthiness is key and essential if you want to have a relationship. And in fact, not focusing on that relationship and just knowing that you're complete as you are will then attract it. So we talked about those relationships that are out of convenience. So let's talk about relationships that are soulmate. Spiritual relationship, if you want to call them soulmate relationships, I'd like to say spiritual relationships, because spiritual relationships are very, let's say they teach you, they push you to be better people. They're not always easy. But those relationships come together not because it's October, not because it's Valentine's Day, not because of a certain date. They come together from magnets. Like, you are a magnetic field. They are a magnetic field. When you have the right energy to attract each other, that's when it comes in. And so in order to attract that person that you're wanting, you've got to be okay with yourself and being by yourself and being happy. The more that we are happy and grateful and we're appreciative, that is when we attract people that come into our life. Now, I do know some people that say they want a relationship, but they're not putting their energy out there. And so, of course, you have to actually say yes to the opportunity. But I'm basically talking about those questions of when is it, where is it, what color is it, like what color hair, is the person tall, like what color eyes, what job, all those things. is usually you're holding on to the outcome so much that you're not even opening your energy to receive. And so just allowing for it to come through is going to be very, very key. And sometimes I see people like check off a whole list, like they have an entire list of things that they want. And while it's nice to think of those things as values, like values are good, don't attach to exactly how it's going to look, because the universe needs to serve you up your perfect match. And if you are focused in on all the details in the list, you're missing the big picture. So that's another common question. Now, another common question I get is, what's going on with my career? When am I going to get a new job? So let's talk about that. A lot of times that question actually can be in a victim state. Sometimes we feel like in a career or a position that we're in a victim role in a sense. We don't know we're in a victim role, but we are, because we think that it's just going to plop into our lap. And while that does happen sometimes, we feel like we're waiting around for the perfect job. We're just like, where is it? Somebody's going to ask me. And sometimes we apply or put resumes out there and nothing happens. And knowing that the misalignment and the symptom of is that you're in a victim role, and you need to shift out of it and realize that you're the creator of who your life is, like who you are, like what's going on in your life. Everything that's external in your life is a representation of what's going in internally. And so it's important to do that inner work with ourselves, to know that it's okay to take that step out to another position or to a job. A lot of times in career, if you're working for someone else, a lot of times we don't say anything. We feel like we've got to be quiet. We've got to be a people pleaser because we don't want to rock the boat, because then what if we don't have a job? And while I understand that that's a valid concern with people right now, especially, you're taking the victim role by not empowering yourself. And a lot of times the people that I attract into my field is, have you ever considered starting your own business? And so that is usually a symptom of victim role, or you're not feeling like you're worthy enough to start your own business. A lot of times we have this mentality that it'll take too long, I'm not good enough, I don't have the right skill sets, and all these things going on. It doesn't have to be that you want to start your business. It could be just shifting into a new business. But I have to tell you, which I've said this a lot, just because the circumstances look defeating does not mean that spirit can't make it happen. You are a creator, my friend, and your spirit guides co-create with you. And so just because things might look bleak, because like logically, that's not how the universe operates. Where you see an obstacle, spirit does not. Where you see obstacles, the universe does not. The universe is always conspiring to help you, not against you. And so your spirit guides are always conspiring of how to make things possible, not impossible. And what your role is to check your energy and your thoughts and say, yes, I can do this. And so really what I want to talk about is, are you accepting the lesson or resisting it? So I see people who ask the same questions over and over. When am I going to have the relationship? When is that next job? When they're asking this, what I know is going on is a resistance. They are resisting the lesson. Because when you resist the lesson, can anybody tell me in the comments what happens? Let me know what happens when you resist a lesson. Let me see what you've got here. Hey, Lay, good to see you, and Alexander, and Gladys, and Donna. I love it. Nobody's guessed yet, but I know there's a little bit of a lag time. Hey, Chandra, good to see you. When you are repeating the same cycles over and over, you're resisting the lesson because you're choosing and thinking that something's going to change. You have to actually choose a different path, a different cycle if you want your life to change. It's going to be really important that you do that. And so if you find yourself asking the same questions, or you find yourself in the same kind of jobs, I know that there's some people that will quit their job and take a new job and think, I've changed, but their thoughts and their internal workings haven't changed. And so they end up in the same cycle with a boss they don't like, a job that they resent, and the pay is not good enough. And so then it creates this self-defeating prophecy where we say to ourselves, oh, well, I can never actually get there. And they thought they made a change, but they didn't. So what I invite you to do, if you are finding yourself asking yourself or your guides, or maybe you're getting readings, what's the next career, like what's going on, and it's a cycle that you're repeating, your higher self is trying to tell you in these hard times, hey, this isn't working. It's time for you to make a shift. It's time for you to make a real change. And that little voice that's been nagging at you to start your own business or to write that book, or that voice that's like, you would be really good at this. And maybe people have even told you, hey, you'd be really good at public relations, or you'd be a great author, or you'd be really great at teaching people, whatever it is. That's what your higher self is trying to tell you. When you're repeating in those hard times where you feel like you're a failure, which you're not. You're never a failure, by the way. But when you feel like it, and you feel like, I can't do anything, and the world has conspired against me, and I did this, and it's like I got fired and my car won't start, and all these things. This is a beautiful moment. So instead of looking at it as a negative, it's a beautiful moment where your slate is wiped clean, and your higher self is saying, hey, you are not in alignment. It's time to align. It's time to know that you are worth more than you thought you were, and that you're worthy to receive abundance, love, health, joy, freedom. And so a lot of times we think in those dark nights of the soul, or those times where we're like, it's really hard, because I know that this time right now has been really hard for some people. And understanding that it's not bleak, that when there's a fire, right, there's always new life that grows after it. And so there might be a part of your life that is dying. And what I'm going to say is embody that phoenix energy. You could read about the phoenix. You could breathe the phoenix in, visualize the phoenix, and know that you're going to be rising up after this. But it's okay to start over. Some people say, well, I'm too old to do that. No, you're not. You're never too old to try something new. I know so many people in my life that are in their 70s and 80s, and they are always doing new things. And so I don't want to hear it. If you think you're too old, you're never too old. And if you're like, well, I don't want to have to go back to school, then I understand if you feel that way, but really examine the root cause of your blockage and your reason, because often there could be another way to get to the same place, but it might not be exactly what you thought. Remember, your job is not to know the how you will do it. Your job is to know why you will want to do it, and communicate it with your guides. And your guides are the one that say, yeah, cool, we'll do this. So another common question that I get is, what are my intuitive gifts? Like, what am I going to do? What am I here to do? So my answer is going to be, talk to your higher self. And then if you haven't taken my quiz yet, please do. It's messengerspirit.com/quiz. And you can find out your primary intuitive type. But a lot of people ask that. And they ask that because they're interested, but they're actually not going to be taking it seriously. I think I have a link. Yeah, there's the quiz link. So a lot of times they will say, well, I'm interested in knowing it, but I'm not going to act on it. And so, of course, if you want to lean into your purpose, if you want to lean into your gift, your spiritual ability, your God-given, like, this is why I'm here on earth, well, it goes the same theme. You actually have to take action on it. And please know that you're not a victim. And so if you know that you are resisting, you know what you need to do. You've got to accept it. You've got to accept it so you can shift and move forward. And the symptom of resisting is repeating the same cycles over and over. You could be in different relationships, but you're having the same lesson. You're like, why is it that I feel like this person doesn't respect me? You get out of the relationship, you go into a new relationship. Why is this person not respecting me? Well, that's showing you that you've got to do the internal work in order to really allow yourself to attract the perfect partner. If you find yourself asking the same questions about career, asking the same questions about your gifts, same questions over and over, knowing, okay, wait a minute, I'm resisting something because I keep asking the same question. So I'm resisting, what am I not seeing? What am I not looking at? What am I not allowing myself to receive? And really be honest with yourself and say, you know, what can I do to shift it? What I like to do in those moments is to get really quiet. I like to clear my mind. I like to call in my spirit guides, and I'll ask and say, what is it that I'm not allowing myself to see? And really getting to the heart of the blockage of what's going on. A lot of times what I see from readings is that the person is just unwilling to make a change because they don't want to be comfortable. So a lot of times the person might be open and say, okay, I'm repeating the same relationship patterns. What do I need to do to shift it? And so their spirit guides will give a message about, there's a couple things that you need to look at, and maybe it's through moving your energy and acceptance of self, and who knows what else they say. But what I see is the common denominator is they'll get that far, and then they're like, well, that's uncomfortable because I have to make a shift and a change. I was just, so I had a hypnosis expert inside of my aligned group coaching mastermind, and she was talking about the subconscious habits that we all have. And so with the subconscious habits, it's like all the triggers that we've had that we've kind of learned unconsciously and maybe subconsciously kind of get stuck into that field. And so what happens is I see people not wanting to make the shift that they really need to make in order to make a change in their lives because it's uncomfortable, or they feel like, I don't want to be out of my comfort zone. So what I want to say is, knowing that accepting the lesson may feel uncomfortable. A lot of times we, as a spiritual community, and you've probably heard me say this before, will say, oh, it felt too hard, so it must not meant to be, because if it was meant to be, it would just magically align in front of me. And I'm here to say that that is BS most of the time. And so while, yes, spirit will block you for certain things, like they will close the doors in your face and all these things, if it's really not meant to be, a lot of times we use it as an excuse not to do the inner work because it feels icky, it feels uncomfortable. And as a spiritual community, a lot of times we like to play in the ethereal realm because it's fun and we don't want to deal with the lower chakra stuff. But what true acceptance of the lesson will be, you'll see the change in your life. And true acceptance of the lesson might involve crying. It might involve getting angry. It might involve some big life changes. And knowing that you've accepted it is not going to feel warm and fuzzy necessarily. It could, but it doesn't mean that it will. So I hope that that has given you some things to think about. Also, your higher self, remember, in the hard times, and your spirit guides, no one's abandoned you when things go wrong. Your guides and your higher self are always wanting you to get back on track, get back in the saddle, get back and do what you're here to do. Depending on how far off your path that you are, it might feel like, oh my gosh, I got to do some work. But never, when these things are going wrong, are you abandoned or your guides have left or anything like that. Knowing that this is a beautiful time to welcome newness in your life and change and opportunity. So those things that you've been putting on the back burner, maybe starting your own business, maybe saying, you know what, I should write the book, maybe I should look into teaching, whatever it is that you thought you wanted to do, those things that you thought maybe 10 years ago, or maybe when you were 10 years old, literally, let's talk about them again. Talk about them with your spirit guides and know that this is time for a change. So when I was in a place where I didn't have a job, I mean, I had started my own business on a part-time basis, but I didn't have a job, I was getting a divorce, and I didn't have a car. It all shifted. And when I thought I was alone, there was an answer that came in very quickly. And so knowing that those things can help get you to where you want to be. But what I also want to tell you is where you are now and where you want to be, there's really no distance. You are who you are right now. And time is not linear, really. And spirit, there's no present, there's no past and future, there's only present. And so knowing that you have the abilities at your fingertips at all times, you just have to make that internal shift. So my words of wisdom to you are, if you feel like you're in that place, examine what's going on and really get to the root cause. Like, why don't I want to do this? What is holding me back? What can I do to shift? Because I know that you can shift. I know that there's only positive for you in the world. We just choose to see the negative. But I just wanted to pop in and say this because I think it's really important that we do. And it's something that right now I think that you need to hear. And I think that we often feel alone sometimes. And just knowing that we're never alone and our guides are always here to help. But it doesn't always feel good when you're making steps towards the up level part of you. There can be expression and crying, and you can grieve, right? Because a part of you is dying, the old version of yourself, and you're walking into a brand new bubble of energy that you love. And so I just wanted you to know that. And thank you so much for showing up today. So Gladys says, I've recognized a positive change in my life. Yes. Karen said she's 59. Dick says he's 56. Awesome. That's fantastic. I can't wait to see where things go in a couple years as well. Karen says it's rough finding yourself, but I've never been happier. It can be. I think that everyone that's come to a spiritual path has at some place had a dark night of the soul. And it's usually because we've been so far off of our path, and it's just a realignment. And so spirit gives us the butterflies, and if we don't get it, they kind of hit us on the head with the baseball bat. And then a lot of us don't get it. Like, I didn't get it. I mean, I got it, but I didn't want to do it. I mean, they gave me messages and I understood them, but I just like, I will have free will and do what I want to do. Well, free will is there and it's beautiful. But what I'll say is it doesn't mean that it's on your path that your higher self chose and your soul chose for this lifetime. Lay says, I started over at age 58. Yeah, Beth says she's 61. I love it. I love that you're sharing this. Thank you so much for that. It's really an important message because you can start over several times in a lifetime, but I hope that it's just once for you, because once you align to your path and you make that shift, so many beautiful things happen and more opportunities just open up, which is really beautiful. So I was so happy to chat with you today. And if you haven't taken the quiz, take the quiz, messengerspirit.com/quiz. If you're someone that keeps wondering about what your gifts are, what I will say is the answers are always going to be within and with your higher self, and your spirit guides can help you with that as well. So make sure you're talking to them, and please don't feel like things aren't going your way. Know that everything does go your way when you're really aware, and you're welcome to receive alignment. You have to be open to accept the message. So understanding when you accept the message, things stop repeating. And that's a great way, because normally the things that repeat we don't like, versus we love miracles, right? Miracles can happen every day. Manifestation can happen every day. And just from personal experience, I've manifested some awesome things when logically it wouldn't look like that would work out. So if you're somebody or have been surrounded by people that are like, oh, but that's too hard, or you can't get that other job, just know that as long as you feel aligned with it and you're making a decision from your intuition and you're making a decision with your spirit guides, yes, it is possible to do that no matter what anybody says. So I love it. It's really, really important. All right. Well, I will see you hopefully next week. Thank you for hanging out with me today. And I'll talk with you later. All right. Bye.